Kyrie already has a 4-year extension worked out with the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavs may be adding Deandre Ayton. These were some of the headlines that exploded yesterday in the Metroplex from Eric Pincus, NBA insider for Bleacher Report, who was talking to some sources about our basketball team. And Eric is joining us here now, live on Shan, RJ, and Bobby, 105.3 The Fan. Good morning, man. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Can you just recap for us what your sources said about Kyrie and maybe an agreement that he and Cuban already have worked out?
Well, I was at the NBA Combine and spoke to a lot of different people. And so I wouldn't want to put out like these are it's not the Mavericks. It's not, Kyrie or his people saying there's a deal done. There's just the general buzz around the NBA that when they made the deal that they pretty much had an understanding that they would keep Kyrie Irving and pay him to stay. And that's what Kyrie expects on some level. Now, Kyrie's a interesting guy. He sort of marches to his own beat. So, I wouldn't ink in anything with Kyrie. And I know that the Mavericks can't actually negotiate numbers, but teams tend to, work around the rules without, breaking them. Maybe they break them in spirit, but they stay within the lines. So I wouldn't think that the Mavs have done anything untoward. I'm just saying there's a reasonable likelihood that, at least according to the people I speak to, that Kyrie will be back.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think that Kyrie's agreement, if it happened at that time, actually means anything? Can we think about locking that in stone?
Well, I mean, if the Mavericks are really willing to pay him up to the max, I think that's the heart of it. I mean, it's a business, and there's very few teams who can pay Kyrie what he can earn. And most of the teams that have the money are younger and are sort of rebuilding. Like the Spurs getting Victor Wembanyama probably doesn't make sense to go get Kyrie Irving. That's the kind of team that has money. So, but it just takes one. There's been some buzz here. I'm in LA with the Lakers, and there's obviously the connection between Kyrie and LeBron. They played together, won together. But I don't see how the Lakers can get him to the max. And if the Mavs are willing to pay him, I think that's probably the answer.
So you think it's for him, it's I don't want to say strictly money, but that's the driving factor. It's not fit. It's not, going to a place you want to play at, maybe winning. It's more money.
Well, I mean, I think most teams, most players want to go where they can get, the most, they want the opportunities that help them the most financially. And then you go from there. For the teams, they want to win, but it's also business as well. So, and they trade players left and right. So it's not like, loyalty only goes so far in this league. Someone like Kyrie's been around long enough to know that. So I do think there are things like, fit and chance to win and all that. But I also think, all things being equal, because the best players in the world tend to think, wherever I go, we're going to win because I'm that good. And that's, I'm not saying that from a cocky point of view, but from a talent. Kyrie's an all-world talent still. So if he goes anywhere, I think he thinks, he has a chance to win.
If you had to wager where he suits up to start next season, where would you say it would be?
I mean, I think he stays in Dallas. That's the buzz. Kyrie's not someone I would bet a lot of money on, just on reliability. Again, not necessarily negative, but he is somebody who is a little unpredictable. So here I am trying to predict what he was going to do. I would put a bet on Kyrie staying, but I wouldn't put like a large bet just because, nature of the situation.
Eric Pincus, Bleacher Report here on 105.3 The Fan. Do you have any feel, Eric, whether he would give up more to go play with LeBron if LeBron actually returns in LA? I mean, is the only thing holding back this reunion just the money that the offers cannot, the money that the Lakers cannot offer him?
I mean, I don't think money's the only answer. I mean, the Mavericks went out and put assets on the line, draft picks, good young players, Dorian Finney-Smith, whatever, to go get him. It didn't work out particularly well this year, but I think some of that was because they gave up so much to get Kyrie. So I think there's some element of fleshing out a roster, finishing what he started. I'm sure there's some level of that, but it can't be the driving force because I work with players, I work with agents, and you have to treat it like a business because, that's what teams do with players. They move them left and right. Just so you got to understand, you got to earn, and you got to go to the right situation. And I think there's a situation where the Lakers could be appealing, and I certainly know that the Mavericks are appealing. So it's going to come down to what Kyrie wants, and if the desire to play with LeBron is more than the money, then maybe there's something that changes. You still would get a lot of money from the Lakers, just not as much from the Mavs, at least theoretically.
Eric, fans here towards the end of the regular season started loving Kyrie more than Luka. There's now a negative perception slowly building around Doncic that he's difficult to play with. He's not going to compromise his style. Have you heard anything about how Kyrie feels playing with Luka or the overall Luka perception around the league?
People around the league look at Luka like he's ridiculous as far as, in a positive way as far as talent, that he's among the best players in the league, and that there are some fundamental challenges the Mavericks face in having a point guard in Kyrie who is not a noted defender, and Luka, who's not really known to be a defender either. And so I think the heart of the matter will be, assuming Kyrie agrees, will be finding like the right pieces around them. So I don't think there's like a personality clash. Certainly we know Kyrie's, the kind of guy who plays his way and has his own style of play where he's going to be aggressive. I think anytime you add two stars, big ego players, and that, again, not a criticism, not negative, there's a learning on how to blend those two together. And when you don't have the rest of the fit around them, that just puts more tension on it. So I don't think Luke is perceived as like a bad guy or anything like that. I mean, everyone has their moments, but he's an incredible player. And I think it's more looking at what the Mavericks gave up to get Kyrie and what they didn't have left to win, versus any sort of, Luka drama or, Luka Kyrie drama or anything like that.
Eric, I know you also talked about the potential of going out and getting a player like DeAndre Ayton and the type of, depth pieces that the Mavericks would have to move in order to make it happen. Do you think that would be something where the Mavericks would look at that and say, look, we're going to be a depth-strapped team, but we believe that a core here of Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, and DeAndre Ayton, we believe that's good enough to carry us as a contender?
Well, I think it's a consideration. Obviously, the Suns are evaluating their situation. The Mavericks got the 10 picks, so they're evaluating the prospects to see is there anyone who can help us. But, the reality is it's very rare for a rookie to be playing in the playoffs, deep into the playoffs. Keegan Murray had a good year. I think he was like 4 in the draft. I could be wrong, but he was, a very high pick and was really good for Sacramento. That's rare. Most of the time it's just, second round picks sit or play, marginal minutes. So if you're talking about trading that number 10 pick and you get DeAndre Ayton, you're getting one of the better young two-way centers, meaning, he plays defense and offense. And I just, in Phoenix, he helped them go on a very deep run. And there's been some, I think, uncomfortableness in how they've built the team. And I don't know if that Ayton's been a great fit. They have a new coach coming in. We don't know who that'll be. So there's just a lot to sort of figure out. If you're the Mavericks, I think you need depth, you need shooters, you need defenders. And they would, if they got Ayton, they would need to really be diligent in finding the right role players, probably with little money to spend at that point, find a way to get defense, athleticism, size, shooting around those three. But is it a perfect combination? I don't know that it's perfect, but find me one team in the West, outside of the Nuggets is the closest, that is really like has the West on, chokehold. It's just not a thing. So I think Dallas, it's an approach. It's one that could work. I think it's one they would seriously consider. I just, we have about 4 weeks almost, or not quite, to the NBA draft, and I think a lot of those decisions will happen around then.
What do you think the Suns would be willing to trade him here, and what do you think the Mavericks would have to give up?
Well, I don't think teams can limit themselves to like, we won't trade with teams in the West or teams that were fighting for, in playoff position, because really, like with the play-in, almost the whole West is at least in the play-in run, and so you can't cut out most of the league when you make negotiations. So if the Suns say that, because the Suns are in a difficult spot where they made a similar trade to the Mavs where they went and got a star, but gave up too much to win, and that was, getting KD. So, if, with all the picks they gave, they don't have a lot. I look at the Mavs, I think the Mavs have a little bit more to offer in trade than the Suns, and really all the Suns have is DeAndre Ayton and maybe the contract of Chris Paul. But those are guys you need to replace with talent. So if Dallas helped give the Suns enough depth, I could see that kind of thing happening. I know that Luka and Ayton share an agent, and Bill Duffy, he's with WME Sports, formerly BDA Sports. So I think there's a good relationship there, but the ownership or leadership of the Mavericks can't just make moves because it's friendships. They've got to make moves that they think is right. But if you have a big and you have a wing who can also be a point guard in Luka, and you have a point guard like Kyrie who can also play off the ball and shoot, defensively there's some issues, but I think there's some. I could see the Mavericks going this path. Who knows what's going to actually happen given the NBA changes so quickly, but I think there's a reasonable path to it.
Eric Pincus, Bleacher Report, joining us with some Kyrie and DeAndre Ayton Mavs rumors here on 105.3 The Fan. What did you make of LeBron's retirement comments last night?
It's that one took me by surprise. I don't get surprised much. I've been doing this a long time, so a lot of things kind of happen a certain kind of way. And I was at, I think it was a Memphis game where LeBron was, celebrating his son, Bronny, going to USC and talking about how committed he was to playing with him when he comes into the league. Probably not this, certainly not this draft, but probably next summer. So for him to kind of about face, he's obviously going to do some soul searching after what was a difficult series against the Nuggets. But it could have been emotion. It could have just been, LeBron just speaking off the cuff. I sort of kind of wait a day or two or three and see, does he still feel that way? But that would be earth-shaking for the NBA. I mean, they rely on players like Luka, like LeBron, like Steph and whatnot for those ratings. You lose a guy like that, that's tough, and we all know it's coming because he's been in the league 20 years. But I think the NBA and the rest of the world thought we had another year or two, so we'll have to wait and see.
Eric, thanks a lot for the time. We appreciate you giving us a lot to talk about. Keep it up.
All right. Anytime. Thanks for having me.